Hey, this is Kirk.
And this is Bird. It's the Kirk and Bird Show. Man, we are blessed to have with us a super fun guest because I've known this person for a really long time. Personally, not just, because I read about her in the paper, but we are blessed to have Coach Tamika Dudley of the #1 high school basketball program in the nation. #1 in the DMV, has the top player, and she's the best coach in the country. Welcome to the show, Tamika.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. Such an honor to be here today. I appreciate you all taking the time to hear about our season and what we've been able to accomplish this season.
Yeah. Tamika's you're the head coach at Sidwell Friends. And how long have you been there?
This is my 3rd year, but technically we had the COVID year, so 2.5.
2.5. Okay, right. That's right. And prior to coming to Sidwell Friends, you had an outstanding career coaching at Woodbridge High School, where you're an alum. Tell us about that. I know, I'm big fan, but you guys were state champions in 2019, right?
Yeah. So I took over at Woodbridge. I actually came onto the Woodbridge staff in probably about 2009. And I was an assistant coach there for a few years under former head coach George Washington, who also coached me in high school. And so when he retired, I took over the position as the head coach there. And to be honest, the first few years we struggled a lot. We went from losing season to losing season to losing season. But, I always had the thought that if I can create a great culture there and get kids to be interested in Woodbridge, even when we're not winning, that I always felt like I could be successful. I'm big on culture, and I feel like at Woodbridge, that's really what propelled us to the level that we eventually achieved in winning the state championship. But really enjoyed my experience there, the families, the community. It was a great starting point for my head coaching career.
Great. So you were named National Coach of the Year this year, and Kiki Rice, one of your players who's going to UCLA, was the National Player of the Year. But you've won that award before, Tamika. Tell us about that, when you won it in the past.
Yeah, so I wasn't Naismith Coach of the Year. I was the All-Met Coach of the Year in the area. This is my first time actually being named the Naismith Coach of the Year.
Right.
But in the public school world, the All-Met Coach of the Year is very similar to, the Naismith Coach of the Year. It's really hard to accomplish that at the public school level. And I know that now, being at the private school level, how hard that was, how difficult that was to have people recognize us at the public school level and recognize me as a coach and what I've been able to accomplish, and to be rewarded for that. At the private school level, you have the ability to recruit kids and bring in kids, and at the public school level, you don't have that luxury. So you really have to build from within. And so now, knowing what I know on the other side of things, I realize how important that award was to me and my career.
Yeah.
It was definitely an honor.
Right.
Tamika, one thing I know about this area, now we're going to talk a little bit about your career, but I know from just being a basketball fan, refereeing high school basketball, and just being in this, the DC metro area, this has to be one of the best areas for women's and girls basketball, especially our high school basketball. Yep. I don't know how many teams and national players of the year I've refereed, but tell us a little bit about we've had some great programs. Can you tell us a little bit about over these last 20 years? I mean, I remember refereeing Kara Lawson, Elena Beard, the young lady who just got drafted by the Mystics that you coached, Shakira at Colonial Forge. I did a couple of her games. Tell us about this area in women's basketball.
Yeah, I mean, definitely highly competitive. I was the era with the Kara Lawsons, Shay Shagag, Jasmine Thomas. Shakira, of course. I mean, the list goes on. There was a
Potomac,
TC,
Lakeisha Fred,
Lynetta
Lynette,
Kaiser.
yeah.
There's just
Lynette
so
Kaiser. I'm
many.
sorry.
Yep, Lynetta Kaiser. There was a kid at TC, and I should know her name, but I can't remember her name. She went pro, played for the Mystics for a long time.
At UNC, I've refed her games too. Yep.
Yes.
I'll
Nikki
think of it.
Teasley. Nikki Teasley came out of the DMV. I mean, you could go on and on listing the number of high-level talented girls basketball players that have come from the area. And of course, we said AZ Fudd, so definitely like the Mecca, in my opinion, for girls basketball. And, even as a coach now at this level, so many talented young ladies in this area.
Yeah, no doubt.
So the transition, actually, before we talk about transitioning to Sidwell Friends, why don't you talk to us about personally your development when you started playing basketball, and if you played other sports, and when you were coming up, tell us about that journey.
Yeah, well, I have 3 older brothers growing up, and so I credit that a lot to my toughness. We played a lot of sorry, I was running over something. We played a lot of stuff, in the court and our house, wrestling and those sorts of things. And I credit them with the toughness that I was able to have throughout my playing career. And it's interesting, a lot of people don't know this about our family, but we actually grew up Jehovah's Witnesses. So anyone who's familiar with their religion, you're not allowed to play sports.
Tamika,
I got it. Kurt, wait, hold on, Tamika. Kurt.
So did I.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and I wasn't allowed to play sports. I had to kind of rebel and play.
Exactly. And so I happen to be the youngest of 5, and my older siblings did not play sports, but my parents actually divorced when I was in 5th grade. And when they did, we no longer practiced the religion. And so just had the opportunity that my older siblings did not have to be involved in sports and athletics. So that was an interesting piece that I don't think a lot of people know about me and my childhood.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And so, I just kind of found a liking to basketball. I did throw the shot put in high school. I never practiced. I just went out and threw because I was just strong naturally. And it's funny because I was placed in the state. I think I went 10th in my senior year. I was 10th in the state in the shot put. But outside of that, I only played basketball. I just really loved basketball.
Wait a minute, Tamika. No,
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I know Tamika, okay, on a personal level. All right, and I'm gonna bring some. Tamika, at one point, didn't you hold a record in running at Lake Ridge Middle School?
Yeah.
Don't be bashful.
No, I ran in middle school. I definitely ran in middle school, and I was fast. I was really fast. But you know what it was about track that I didn't like? And this is weird because I get the same feeling in basketball. I felt a lot of anxiety and pressure when I ran. The pressure to win. I was wanted to win. And I don't get, I mean, I get it a little bit in basketball, but it was different in track. I didn't like running because of that. But I did do it through middle school. And then after middle school, I was like, I'm done with this. And then so went on to play in college. I also was kind of a knucklehead in high school, and I always share this story with my players. I did it more with my public school athletes. Just that you have to do the right thing academically in school. And I started out a little shaky in high school with my academics. And then fortunately I had a high school coach, Tim Taylor, who currently coaches at Navy, who basically just said, hey, if you get the grades, I'll get you to college. And I hadn't even thought about college before that moment. And that resonated with me and, kind of changed the course of my life, to be honest. And then, when I was in high school, I got the grades and I was able to play at LIU. I was under recruited because I had messed up so much in my first couple of years in high school. But that moment with Tim Taylor really is what kind of has always driven me as a coach. I always wanted to be that for someone else.
Right.
Wow. And to me,
I'm sorry. That blew me away when you said you were raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I was just looking at something up, and I'll bring it up in a minute. Go ahead, Rusty.
Yeah, again, Tamika is very modest. I'll brag for you. For those that don't know, Tamika is in her high school's Hall of Fame for athletics, and in college, your college Hall of Fame at LIU, Brooklyn. So tell us a little bit about your time in college, and then after college, how did you get into coaching?
Yeah, so I went to LIU when they were literally the worst team in the country. Like, I didn't have many options. And so I locked in there, and, I ended up in New York. My first year, the head coach, I played under Patty Delahanty, who was a very decorated high school athlete and played in college. She was a part of the Villanova team that won the last national championship before women's basketball converted to the NCAA. I believe it was Villanova. I could be wrong, but anyway, so she brought in like 5 freshmen, and we were really like kind of just green. We didn't know what to expect. I think it was actually 7 freshmen. So I came in, was able to start right away, and have an impact on the team right away. We had a really, really successful first year. She was a really tough coach on us. So after the first year, they let her go, and we ended up with Tony Bozzella, who's currently the coach at Seton Hall. And he was with us for 2 years. The second year, my sophomore year, we won the NEC tournament and went on to the NCAAs to play UConn in the first round. And then we were successful the previous 3 years. My last year, I was under Stephanie Gately, who is currently the head coach at Fordham. And it's interesting. I had 3 college coaches in college. I had 3 different coaches. And at the time, when you're going through that, you're like, oh my God, another coach, but I learned so much from each of them that I really took away a lot from those experiences to help me as a coach to be better. And it's crazy because everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. Now, for those that don't know, Tamika's a pretty good coach, and she's coached, and then she's had people break off from her. But one of the coaches that you sat on their bench for, great coach, was Tamika was on my staff in the Eastern Prince William Basketball Association. I was the head coach, and Tamika was on my staff when our kids played together. And Tamika, I can say that I hope I imparted, when you talked about some of the coaches you worked under and you took a little bit from them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely will be a great rec league coach one day as well, when I'm ready to scale it back a little bit.
Scale it back, yeah, I think so. But it helped that we had Justin, and we had your daughter Kendall. Can you tell us a little bit about Kendall, who was playing on a team? I think we had 2 girls on the team. Kendall was our best player by far. My son Justin was on the team, who was just there to use his fouls and try to steal the ball, play good defense. But Tamika, I let Tamika do a lot of the install stuff in practice, and then I just kind of game day took over. But Tamika, tell us about Kendall.
Yeah. Well, when I was pregnant with Kendall, I actually coached at Potomac High School. I was the assistant there under Mike Wilson. And at the time, Lynetta Kaiser was there. And I was pregnant with Kendall, and I was still on the court with them playing. I remember them always being like, don't get out here. You be careful, be careful. They were always so like apprehensive. And I always told them, I was like, I'm going to have a 6'6" point guard. She's going to be playing the pros one day. Like, I literally would joke with them all the time about that. And so Kendall grew up literally in the womb all the way through around basketball. Yeah. She's my only child. And so the teams and the young ladies that she's been exposed to and around throughout her, her youth, I think has really had a huge impact on her as a person, as a player, and just her understanding of the game. So, of course, she grew up in the gym. I remember her being in her walker at Potomac High School at practices. And as a matter of fact, when she was about 2, I would let her blow the whistle. The girls never let me forget this either. Like when they had to run, I would be like, okay, Kendall, blow the whistle. And Lynetta and Kiana Kaiser and Kiana Jacobs were playing at Potomac, and they always still to this day bring up that story. They're like, I used to want to take that whistle from her. Like they were so mad at Kendall when she was 2 for blowing the whistle. So that was a lot of her, like, young, times in the gym. I mean, I have videos of her doing ball handling drills with like a headband on, like a cute headband, just like really innocent. And so she just grew up around the game. Kendall's also been always been very independent. I mean, as a single mom, at one point I was working 2 jobs and going to school and, taking care of Kendall. And this was when I wasn't coaching. I took a short break from coaching and I thought I'd never come back, but I ended up coming back. But during that time, I had a lot going on, and Kendall was very much like independent, easygoing kid. And that's always been her personality. She's been super easy. And, on the court, she has some of those same things. She's very like, nothing really bothers her on the court. Even through her mistakes, she's able to play through stuff. She's always had a tremendous work ethic. I like to, that's one of the things for me is super important because I have reaped the benefits of my work ethic. And so even for her, the few times that I have fussed at her, it's been because I didn't feel she worked hard. It's never been because you missed a shot or made a mistake. It's always about, how you respond to your mistakes and your work ethic. So there's 2 times I can remember ever having to really like fire at her. And it was basically because I felt like she didn't work hard when she was on the court. But she's always taken to me as a mom, I feel like a backseat to me coaching other people's kids. And so now that she's with me, I finally have the opportunity to give her, the experience that I've been able to give so many other kids.
Why don't you tell us about the transition from public to private? Because it's a different world. You're allowed to recruit, and maybe explain some of the parameters around the recruiting game in high school. Not anything controversial because it's just, with the WCAC, but you mentioned earlier in public school how different it is. You're at Sidwell Friends now. How is it different, and being able to bring, recruits in from, I would think, within a reasonable distance of the school?
Yeah, well, it's different, but it's not. I feel like I approach the private school level the same way I approach my high school program, my public school program. I've always had the mindset of how do you get kids to want to come play for you when you're not winning. That's how I really kind of base everything that I do. And so I want to build the best culture possible and do things and constantly think of ways to make the experience for kids the best or better than what anyone else is doing. It's like, how can I make this experience great? When I was at Woodbridge, my first 3 years, we won 5 games, 6 games. Like, it was pretty bad. I was like, oh my goodness, like, I don't know if this is for me. Maybe I'm not a great coach, and I'm fine with that. And then it took a kid. I mean, I think Asia McCants and Paris McBride took a chance on us, and they saw what we were doing, and they decided they wanted to play at Woodbridge. And I feel like at the private school level, it's a very similar thing. One, Sidwell Friends is in a tough school because academically you have to meet these standards, and you have to be able to, do the work. It's a tough academic institution, and there's a rigorous workload. And so when I came into Sidwell, I left a really talented Woodbridge team that I absolutely adored and loved those kids and parents. And, it was not an easy decision for me to leave. And as a matter of fact, like, I had no intention on ever leaving. And I did not even look for the Sidwell position. It just happened to fall into my lap. And so, when I got to Sidwell, I literally had Kiki Rice there, Kaya Miller was actually at Woodbridge Middle School and was planning to come to Woodbridge. And when I got the job at Sidwell, they reached out and they had expressed interest in coming to Sidwell. So of course we started that process, and then I brought in Kendall. So I had Kiki Rice, who was this amazing talent, and then I had a lot of homegrown kids from Sidwell, which were phenomenal kids. The coach that was there had been there for about 30 years and had done a great job, but it had kind of run its course. And, I feel like they were just in need of a facelift. So I really took a big chance going to Sidwell, not knowing. It was really an unknown about what we were going to do and what, how I was going to build this thing. I had no experience at this level. So I was, starting out new, learning the ropes. And so I really treated it the same way I treated my Woodbridge program. I was like, how can we build an amazing experience for these kids?
Mm-hmm.
And when I went there, I did not know. I was like, I don't know if these kids even need me. Most of them know what they want to do. They don't need basketball to get them to the next level. And that's kind of all I knew, was helping kids use basketball as a vehicle to college. And so there were definitely a lot of unknowns. And it hasn't been very different in terms of, the recruiting. Like we have a kid that, was able to see what we're doing, and she came from New Jersey to play for us at Sidwell. And
Wow.
I'm when I do like recruiting, I really want people to feel how we are, not for me to tell them. Like I want them to come and be a part and feel it, so it feels good.
That's great. So it's big on the atmosphere, and you talked about the tough academics, but that's also a selling point. I mean, to be able to say, you graduated from Sidwell Friends. I was just looking at, John F. Kennedy Jr., Charles Lindbergh, Bill Nye, the Science Guy, the Obama daughters, Chelsea Clinton, Roger Mason, who played for UVA. I guess Carol Lawson started there. So you've got that to sell also. But real quick, I wanted to go back to, because something very near and dear to my heart. How was it? I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you know it, but Alonzo Mourning was raised the same way we were. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I did not.
He was. And I think it was 8th grade, he petitioned the court to be removed from his household and stay with his grandmother so he could participate in basketball. I read his book. I bought it literally in a Florida airport, and I read the whole thing before I got back to my house near Dulles Airport.
Wow.
What kind of challenges did you face for that? Because my guess is you said you didn't play early?
No, I didn't start playing basketball until 6th grade.
Okay.
In 6th grade when I started.
Right.
Yeah. I think for me, I didn't have I didn't feel the effects of it because I was a little younger.
Right.
In those days, kids did not play basketball that early. Like 6th grade was probably early, all things.
Yeah.
Now, what I mean? Looking back, girls didn't start playing basketball, but we played a lot of sports like at home, like, in our cul-de-sac and stuff like that.
Okay.
Well, I know. Well, now let me ask you this. It's just like Kendall was playing in a majority boys league, and I don't even know if they have it now, but when you were growing up, there weren't any all girls leagues or teams, were there? Or did you get a chance? Because I know Nikki Reed, who's an assistant at Georgetown and went to Phoebus. She was on the show, and she just played with the guys, but she didn't really have a team she could play on. And granted, she's older than you are, but were there teams, and was AAU already established for the girls?
Yeah, so yeah, there was. I mean, I played for the Virginians. I mean, it was very different than it is now. The Virginians was like the only team in Prince William County. It used to be like that, where it was like one team, everyone had tryout, they picked the best players. And the Virginians was the team, and then you played your state and your region. You had to win those. You play your region and your state. You had to win those to go on to nationals, which, I mean, not a lot of people have that opportunity. And I think that it's better because the exposure is way better for girls. I mean, I remember feeling like if I didn't make it to nationals, I
Right.
had no chance of going to college.
Mm.
And so I think that now it's better, but I think now it's just gone the scales tip way far the other direction. But you know, I can't complain about that much if you've been from our generation, because you almost felt like you would never have that opportunity. You felt helpless to be able, like you couldn't, if you didn't make it. And then if you lost in the first round, no college coaches would be there. You know, it was like you're really playing for something.
I was
So
just
for
ask
oh, go
you,
ahead.
and we ask this a lot with coaches, the role of social media and mass media. There's just everything. There's 247 sports, there's rivals. You've got National Player of the Year, you've got some other big time recruits. What's your feeling on social media? Because when you went to school, social media was small. You've got Huddle, you've got all of these different things. What's your feeling on it? Because we think it could be a double-edged sword. It could give a lot of exposure to kids who may not get that exposure, but at the same time, a tremendous amount of pressure. What's your feeling on social media, Coach? And how do you handle it within your program with maybe rules, regulations, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, social media is probably, I agree, it's a gift and a curse. At first I was really kind of like, I mean, I'm always evolving. That's just me as a coach. Like, I'm okay with evolving with the times, and I think that actually makes me, it helps me in what I do as a coach. I do feel like at times they could be, very negative, and it could actually. We had a situation this year with our program that, there was this message out there about us having the big three. Like, we had three really good players, and that was it. And we were so anti that message, but it can kind of infiltrate your team
Right.
culture if not kept in check. And so I had to really fight back against that message, because that's not who I am, that's not what I represent, and that's not what we want our kids to feel in our program to be about. So, in that sense, it can be bad. I also think when they just highlight, you know certain kids, it definitely, it can really dig into your culture if you're not very careful about how you address those things, and how you counteract. But on the flip side of it, with the NIL and with making sure kids are recruitable and attractive, it can also be a gift to those kids.
Yeah.
And even kids that may not be the highlight player, you as a coach can highlight what they do well, especially if you have a reputation and people respect you and feel like you bring, good information to the table. A lot of what I do on social media is for my personal account. At Sidwell, as coaches, we don't have individual accounts. The kids can create individual social media accounts. We cannot. We have one athletics page, page for Twitter, Instagram, all those, and it's run by our communications team at Sidwell.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to go into, before we're going to wrap up this whole basketball specific thing. We want to know even a little more about Tamika Dudley. But I want to talk about this season a little more. You played the great teams here, but you played a national schedule, and you just won a big time. What was that? The championships tournament. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So the state champions invitational is actually, it's in its inaugural season this year. I got really have a great relationship with Ross. He is the CEO of Paragon, which is the company that hosts Geico Nationals State Champions Invitational. They have a huge affiliation with Gatorade, and this event was created so that schools that fall under the umbrella of the National Federation of High Schools could participate without any type of conflict with independence. So Geico is going to evolve into an independent school national championship. There's a lot of issues between the NFHS and independent schools in terms of like, fifth year seniors, all those things. Anyway, long story short, that this was the first season for this state champions invitational. It was a phenomenal event. They picked there's only 8 states that allow postseason play, so they had to pick state champions from 8 states, and they picked the teams that they felt would be the most competitive. And they literally provide everything from your travel, flights, hotel, transportation, food.
Wow.
I mean, they lay it out for you, gear. They really treat the kids amazing and make it feel like it's, a great experience. And so anyway, that was kind of like our culminating experience on the season. But yeah, I mean, our schedule was crazy this year. And the thing was, we didn't really set it up that way. Like, we happened to play these teams and set this up before the season even started. We didn't know that DeSoto was going to be number 1. And we didn't know that when we went to Minnesota, we were going to play the number 2 team and the number 3 team, and then we go up and play St. John's Vianney. We play Bishop McNamara, was ranked number 2 at the beginning of the season, or 3. Vianney was ranked 5. DeSoto was ranked 1. Hopkins was ranked 2. Lake Highland Prep, we just recently beat, was ranked 12. We played.
Gracious.
We played PVI at number 18. I mean, we played 8 top 25 opponents this season, and we only played 20. Actually, we didn't even play 26 games this year because a couple got canceled. We played 23, I think, in our regular season, and of that 23, I mean, we played 8 ranked top 25 opponents. Most people get to number 1 by winning like 1 tournament. And we literally have, I honestly think, and I'd be curious to know, like, I feel like we played the most competitive high school schedule in the history of high school basketball. I don't know.
I know. God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
that's
we went to
Tamika, so you Kirk, and I'm sorry, but I just want to ask, you went 30-0, right? And I talked about this with the Hayfield team this year and Patriot, like the pressure has to keep mounting. Like, were you ever, was your goal, I know you don't think you're going to go undefeated, but at one point in the season, did you say, I want to go undefeated? Or, hey, would it be okay to get a loss here so I can get back and start to point out the things we're not doing? They're getting cocky. I need to get them focused. Or were you good with, let's go for it?
No, there was never a point in the season where every game I went into every game like we could lose the game. Like, that's just me. Like, I mean, I didn't think we were gonna lose, but I never take any opponent lightly. And I prepare the same way for every single team we play. We watch a ton of film. We put together a scout. We actually have a Google Doc that we use for our girls, and we put in the scout that they have access to. We don't print them out. They have access to it. We put clips. I mean, it takes a lot of work to prepare the scout reports. We do a lot of like preparation for every opponent. And we go in and we play. And I tell the girls every time, I'm like, go and play like you're not number 1. Like, you got to play like you're not number 1 every single game. You got to approach practice that way. For me as a coach, I prepare that way. And, we just understand that, you can't stay on top forever. Losses happen. We're not so caught up in being number 1. Like, I mean, it's nice. That was never our goal when we started the season, to be number 1. And it just so happened, like, it was kind of like a byproduct of the work that we put in and how we teach our kids and what we encourage and what we emphasize.
Right. Before we transition to having a little bit more fun, and we want to talk about, you personally, some of the things that make you yourself outside of basketball, some of the things you like to escape to, as well as some of the things you do with the young ladies on your team to create that fun environment. I'm sure you all have activities outside of basketball, but I want to encourage our listeners to look us up on YouTube, The Kirk and Bird Show. You'll find us, all the young people know how to do this. You click on our icon, which is a headset, hit subscribe. You can like us, unlike us, make comments, share. If you hit the bell icon, you'll get notified. We only put 2 to 3 videos out a week, so you're not going to get bombarded. And then Twitter is big. I saw your Twitter page. Didn't have time to follow you. I will. Please follow us at the Kirkenberg, BYRD. And as far as podcasts, just Google the Kirkenberg Show. We'll show up. We're on 4 different platforms. Instagram, we're getting more popular. We get the youth views, and that's at Kirk and Bird Show. We'll overlay all that so people can follow us. But
Kirk, I had to teach Kirk all this stuff, Tamika. When we first started, all he said is, "Well, I have a MySpace account, so we're good."
MySpace. Oh my God.
And I email him at Kirk Hilliard at AOL.
Oh.
And you still have dial-up, right, Kirk?
He's on a Commodore 64 right now.
Right.
So, but yeah, switching over, making your environment attractive. Talk about some of the things that you do to build that culture, to make it fun for the young ladies, away from basketball. Your resource outside of their parents. There's got to be. I was this way. I would talk to coaches about some things I wouldn't talk to other people. There was a trust level. So what are some of the things that you and your team do to build that environment that you want to attract people, whether it be movie nights, etc., things like that?
Yeah, well, it was funny because Sidwell, when I first got to Sidwell, these kids, I don't think they really, and I don't want to, the connection was not the same with their previous coach. And so when I first got there, one of the things I did was I put food in my office. I put food in my office. I put a couch in my office. And the girls would always come in there like, they wanted to get food, but they wouldn't, like, they were afraid to ask. And I'm like, guys, just come in. Like, you can come right in, like, get food, whatever you want to do, sit down, chill, whatever. Now I can't keep them out of my office. I'm like, I had to like, literally, we had to like build the locker room with food and snacks because I would have like 12 kids sitting in my office, and I couldn't. My office is not that big, so I actually made the locker room for them. Now it's like their space to hang out, and all their food is in there. And so, but that was the first thing, just getting the girls to relax and be comfortable around me. I'm pretty easygoing. I mean, like I feel like I'm a big kid. I like to make jokes. I like to I just don't take everything so seriously. I think that's kind of, who I've been, and I feel like I'm easy to talk to. I think that's part of it. We do a lot of stuff. I always am trying to find ways to get the girls into something fun. We did at the beginning of the season, we did a ropes course. I thought it was great. The kids loved it. We do a lot of like get-togethers at family houses. We did more of that before COVID. After COVID, we had one this year towards the end of the season. And we involve our parents and everything. Like, our parents are like so important. We're super close to all of our parents. I mean, they're like family to us. I think that's huge, 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 because parents have to trust you, especially in this day and age. So that's a big piece of it. I always communicate with them. We have a group chat that we use for all communication, even jokes and laughs and everything I share with the parents. I think that's huge. I want them to know who I am. Inside, and there's no conversation I feel like is too tough to have with parents, especially when it comes to their kids. I really try to break down that barrier of like parent coach. Like, I want it to feel really good and like an easy relationship. And I think that we've done that. But just, I think just trying to make the girls feel like we care about them and valued. My first year, I was in the gym. I didn't care if it was the best player or the worst player. I'll rebound for them, like come in and get extra shots. I'm standing in the basket rebounding for kids who may not ever touch the floor for me. But it's important for all of our kids, 1 through 12, to feel just as important or valued and important. And that's important and valued is such a common theme amongst our program in every way. And I think that helps build our culture.
Right.
Y'all, y'all, if you don't know, like Tamika is the real deal. Again, she's being very modest. Tamika, you like, I remember when you got the job, at Woodbridge, and I remember we would be, watching our girls play soccer, or we'd be, at a game or something. But you would just tell me, Rusty, I want to do this, and I'm telling you, your vision and the things, I'm coaching youth sports. I'm coaching track. I'm coaching football, cross country and a bunch of stuff. But I would just listen to you, and you're younger than I am, but you like, looking back, I'm going, no, like, I'm not surprised. Like, Tamika, you would say little things about, hey, I'm doing this, and then this player, and you're right. Like, we would go to Woodbridge, and I'd see you, like, Kendall's going to be here, but hey, if you want to bring Sydney, like, you always, you had a plan. And it just made sense. It just made sense the way you connected with people, with the youth and their parents. So it's no surprise. I mean, I know you may not have expected Coach of the Year, national champions, best player, but it was like it's destiny, because you're doing the right things. And so I know I'm proud of you. Like, and I know my whole family, we're like cheering you on, but I remember going to the only game I really didn't like was when you beat Bethel. Back it was I think the state quarterfinals in our gym. A little disappointed, but that's my school. But other than that, I've always been a big fan.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that so much, definitely.
Now, getting to you personally, we always like. People have commented they like this section of our show. So did you say you graduated from high school in 99?
Yep, 99.
Okay. All right. So this should be somewhat fun, because when we get younger people, we don't necessarily, we need a translator. But first and foremost, Rusty usually asks this question. What's something that you do just for you? To get away, to have your own mind space, is it video games? Is it listening to music? What's something just for you? I'm going to guess it's away from basketball, but you tell us, Coach.
Yeah, so the one thing I love, my favorite part of the day, every day, is going into my room, laying down and watching TV. I mean, a lot of times that might not happen till 10 o'clock at night, 11 some nights, but that's like the best part of the day, just like laying by myself in my bed, watching TV. I do like to get my toenails done. I don't do a lot of like manicures and all that stuff, but occasionally I'll get my toenails done, and that's also one of my favorite things to do also.
Yeah, Rusty, you're spot for that.
So that leads us to one of our questions we always ask. So one, I normally ask, what's your favorite movie all time? But we'll go straight into this one. What is Tamika Dudley streaming? Because that's like, what are you into? Netflix? Is there a certain show? Like, I know, like Leah, we joke all the time, but she loves murder shows. Like they had this skit on Saturday Night Live about women watching murder shows. Man, like That's her thing. What do you like to watch? Are you into sports, mysteries, true crimes?
Well, definitely not murder. I do not like that energy. All through March. I mean, of course, March is my favorite time of the year, watching college basketball. That's definitely has occupied my streaming time the last couple weeks or whatever. But then outside of that, like I like Bridgerton. I watched that on Netflix.
Okay.
But that was really good. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching shows. I just started I watched Euphoria, but it's actually really like, I don't know if it's something I want to watch. But I'm constantly looking for a good show to get into. I like scary movies. I like suspense, but I do like kind of like the fun stuff like the Bridgertons. And I keep saying Bridgerton because that's what I watched recently.
Right. That's how I am. I look back and I go, what about any do you like any sports documentaries, things like that?
Oh yeah. I love documentaries. I like 30 for 30s. I watch those. I like true story stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
that's me.
yeah, I mean, I'm all over the place with it. I mean, I have a range. I'm not into the murder stuff, but I have a definitely I can get into something good. Like I'm binge watching it. Like I watched the
Yeah.
Ozarks. I love that on Netflix.
I was
That
gonna
was a
ask
good
you
one.
about that. Ozark. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about movie? Favorite movie of all time?
It's hard for me to pick a favorite because I mean, I just love movies. So I watched so many. I used to watch Stepmom over and over again in college. That was something we watched all the time. I don't know. I don't have I can't pick a favorite movie. I love movies.
Yeah. How about music? Because you came up your formidable years, there was some very good music. We're kind of snobby about the music now. We don't like it too much, but how
Right.
about music?
I like to sing, so when I'm in the car, I like Alicia Keys and like Fantasias and Mary J. Um, Male artists kind of like the Ushers and stuff like that. But I like to sing, so I always am, in the car. Like I think I can sing, so I'll listen to someone that I can sing to. But yeah, those are the artists that I like the most.
Yeah. Now, how about your kids? Because you got to live a little bit vicariously through them. Your daughter, and what do you think about some of the music they listen? Because when you're closer to the kids all the time, we've had some guests. Remember, Corey Stewart was like, "I like a lot of the new stuff." I mean, what do you think about the new stuff? We can't seem to catch on.
Yeah, well, it's funny because Kendall's like the playlist queen, and so I like her music. She does a good job in like putting good music, like finding the good songs. But then when I wanted to debo her, I'm like, Kendall, put my playlist on. Like she'll have a playlist for me on her like phone, and I make her like, I'm like, I don't want to hear this, or I'll just tell her to like skip the song. So if it's something I'm not a fan of, I just tell her, I debo her. I'm like, I don't want to hear this.
Right.
So
I,
she does a decent job.
I'm old school. Old school rap. That's me. And I can't get into some of the newer stuff. I guess I kind of like some songs by Drake. I don't know.
Right. Drake has some good songs.
Yeah.
I just laughing at Devo. For those who don't know, Devo's the big tough guy in Friday, and then Big Worm
Right.
with the pink curler. That's the kind of curlers my mom used to wear, back in
Hey,
the 70s.
we had to show our kids that because my kids have grown up hearing lines from that movie and didn't know that's where it came from.
Yeah.
We do it with the bike. Leah and I always be like, "Hey, moms, it's kind of like the bike moms, like we'll say something like it's kind of like both ours,
Right. That's funny.
So as we close out, I just have a quick question for you. Where are you commuting from, Coach, to Sidwell?
I live in Manassas Park still. So I live in Manassas Park.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there an easy way to get to where Sidwell Friends is? Because once you get in the city, it's always interesting.
Yeah, so once I get into the city, I go over, like I go through Georgetown. Like I go through Georgetown to get to Wisconsin, and I take Wisconsin straight up from Georgetown. It's actually not a bad commute for us. We actually come through Woodbridge every morning and pick up Kaya. Kaya rides with us to school every day. So it's free on HOV. It doesn't cost me anything. I got 2 stowaways, so I'm good. And I'll be trying to look for another kid
Yeah.
to commute to school with.
Okay.
I got a question. So you clearly we one thing we asked. I mean, you probably know a lot of people. Is there anybody interesting in your phone that you could text, or and they would hit you back, and it could be somebody that's just interesting to you, or would it be something like we go, oh wow, like that person,
Right. Who's in my phone? I got Dawn Staley in my phone.
That's our first
That's
thing.
my girl. That is my girl.
Gino or Mama?
I do not have Gino in my phone, but I have Dawn. I have
Philadelphia.
I have Adia Barnes from Arizona in my phone, who I love. The UNC coach. I'm trying to think who. I mean, I don't think there's anybody bigger than Dawn Staley in my phone. I mean, I think that's as big as it gets. David
Yeah.
Gregory, you guys know David Gregory? His daughter plays for me. David
Oh
Gregory.
yeah, the old White House correspondent, tall guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. His daughter plays for me at Sidwell. He's pretty big name.
Yeah.
So yeah, but Don Staley, I think that's probably the biggest.
That's cool. That is cool. Yeah.
Does our friend Nikki Reed Geckler come by there?
I don't think Nikki's been to Sidwell. No, she hasn't.
Okay. Because she played for my high school team.
Okay.
Yeah. Great coach. So
Yeah. She's awesome.
yeah.
So Kirk, I want to hear your answer. Anybody you got that we might know, or it's just interesting to you that you could text, and they would hit you back.
Through this podcast, I've gotten. I mean, obviously, my personal friends who, you and some of my lifelong friends that I can call about anything are
Boo Williams.
That's a celebrity.
Boo is your boy.
Oh, I was showing somebody the other night. I called Boo in the national championship to ask him about the center for Kansas. I just said, "Hey, Boo, did this kid McCormack play for you?" He's like, "No, he played for Virginia Elite or something." And I'm like, "Are you watching the game?" The Boo Williams was not watching the game. He was doing some work to get NCAA ready. And I will say this, the Netflix intro, it starts off with Roy Williams. He talks for like 45 seconds. He goes, "There's only one Boo." So in my phone, I can put it on the camera. It just says Boo. Because he's
yeah, everybody knows Boo.
No, I mean some other really cool people that I've gotten numbers from. And the great thing is when somebody gives you their number, you don't blow it up or anything like that. But yeah, so
okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you three big ones for me. Deshaun Hand. Tamika, I know you know Deshaun Woodbridge. Yep. Professional player of the year. I've got Sean Moore, former UVA quarterback, a Heisman Trophy finalist. And I've got, and I know she'll hit me back, the National High School Coach of the Year, Tamika Dudley.
I gotta get that number, man.
And we got proof, y'all. She didn't say I don't have her number.
No, you
right here.
Have the number. You have the number. We go way back.
Yo.
Tamika, didn't you say you have a 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the good part of the 9 o'clock. That 15 or 20 minutes are gonna make you wait anyway. You were talking to us.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's been a joy. Our big thing is I try to plug us is YouTube, the Kirk and Bird Show. Just subscribe. It takes just a few seconds. We are we don't talk about a lot of the high level stuff that you see every single day. The Super Bowl and things like. We try to cover things like this, to be more diversified. And we're getting into spring sports, so we're going to be covering soccer. We're going to be covering baseball. We're going to be covering lacrosse, and this area is a tremendous area for that. So we just ask that kids follow us at the Kirk and Bird, and then the Kirk and Bird Show on Instagram. But thank you so much. And
Tamika,
over, but I'll let you go. You can close us out. I love, and I always say this, I love girls basketball. I love girls basketball. I was telling Nikki Reed that the fundamentals, the hustle, it's just a different game. And I always make this point. When you're at a live girls basketball and you can see everything going on, young ladies are vicious competitors. You see it in soccer also. So, Rusty, why don't you go ahead and take us out?
Yeah, Tamika, I just want to give you this chance. If there's anybody you want to give a shout out to, or is anything you want to plug or promote, and we'll get you back anytime. Hey, bring one of your players on, especially let's highlight some seniors. I definitely cannot wait to get Kendall on. But anybody you want to talk about or plug before we wrap it up?
Yeah, first, just want to say thank you all for having me on. It's always great to be able to share the journey in our in both programs, the Woodbridge program and Sidwell, that are both dear to my heart. Um, but definitely want to just give a shout out to the Sidwell community for being so supportive this season. I mean, the entire community, administration, alumni, the student body. It's been a great journey with them. Our parents, of course, and then also the Woodbridge community has been so great in still making me feel a part of the community, even though I'm no longer coaching at Woodbridge High School. I was able to come back and watch some games this season, and it just felt really good to be back in the gym in my hometown and support. And everyone's been so supportive. And the last thank you to all the fellow colleagues and coaches that have reached out, and former players and people that I've been connected to
And
through
worked
different.
under, that you worked under.
Yeah,
Like
and
you on their
yes, like so many people have reached out and said so many great things, like and been so supportive, that I'm super appreciative for all of that. And so just want to say thank you to those people as well.
Great.
That
Well,
is awesome.
congratulations on a spectacular season. And, I like how you said you did not necessarily prepare. You played a killer schedule. I've often heard coaches say, years when I went 16-14, that was the best coaching job that I ever did. And
Yeah.
The big part is making an impact on your athletes. Like Rusty talks about it all the time. His coaches, I've got coaches I talk to regularly, I text, and that's taking us back. I hate to say it, Rusty, but we're getting close to 40 years, man. So, those relationships are lifelong, and so many non-sports lessons. So I'm so happy that your young ladies are getting an opportunity to get a great education and experience what you're doing. And we thank you for coming on. And we'll definitely have you back on. I mean, next season, let's get into the city and see a game. And if you're out here, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, Kirkenberg, we're blessed to keep having wonderful guests like Tamika Dudley. So thank you, Tamika. Kirkenberg, we are out.